Well, it's really interesting when you think about private members' bills. Now, the process is rather long. It started, as soon as we got into Parliament, I had number 44 in the parliamentary lottery. They give us each a lottery spot, and then from there you're allowed to bring your private members' bill to first reading. There's 1 hour of first reading and the second hour of first reading. And then there's the first hour of second reading and the second hour of second reading. And if you pass all that, there's a vote at each point. A vote after the first reading, a vote after the second reading. Then you go to committee. And in committee, they can bring amendments to the bill. And then it goes back to the House with those amendments for third reading. And then again, another vote. And then off to the Senate. And in the Senate, they also have a first, second, and third reading and a committee in the middle. And so that's why this process has taken almost 2 years. But really, when the bill came forward, the idea came from the medical assistance in dying legislation, where there were amendments that were brought on palliative care but refused by the government. And the government had been saying that they pledged $3 billion for home care and palliative care, but the word palliative wasn't in their budget. So I said to my seatmate, has no one ever brought a bill on palliative care? And he said, well, there was a committee in 2011, and they ended up coming with recommendations that went to a motion. But motions don't really drive action in the House. They're just sort of statements. So with that, I started to look at that report and look at those recommendations, talk to stakeholders. We have a great hospice and Dr. Madison, and he put me in touch with the Canadian Medical Association contacts. The Canadian Nurses Association got on board, the Palliative Care Physicians of Canada, and then many hospice organizations and coalitions and faith organizations came along. By the time it got to the health minister, she said, this is actually really a very good bill. I think with some amendments, we could support the bill. So it was unanimously supported at committee and back in the House of Commons, and then went off to the Senate. Now, in the Senate, anything can happen because you've got a lot of independent senators that are sitting. But on the whole, they were supportive of the bill. There was some thought that they would bring an amendment to the bill to add public education on the subject of palliative care. And it was clear that if there's an amendment made in the Senate, then it has to go back to the House of Commons. And that can further delay it, and it can also, with the new health minister, give a chance to jeopardize the bill. So it was great to see all the faith organizations and the Medical Association, Canadian Cancer Society, all send emails out to all the senators saying, this bill is so important at this time. Let's let the bill go in its current form. We will bring public education forward. We won't forget about it. And so that's what was done. And then after the bill is accepted by the Senate, it goes for royal assent. And this is a ceremony where the usher of the black rod comes down to the House of Commons and knocks on the door and takes all the MPs down into the Senate chamber. And we can stand and watch while the Governor General, with the Speaker of the House, actually gives royal assent to each of the bills. And so that was a very exciting time and a very meaningful ceremony. But now it's the best present that any Canadian could have. We have palliative care, consistent access coming. And so I'll be back at the government working hard to explain to them what funding has to be put in place for infrastructure and those kind of things. So what a great ending to the year.